This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday, August 1st of 2025. It is a beautiful summer day, great way to kick off the month of August. We are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan about that heat dome that recently broke, finally, and allowed us to enjoy some cooler temperatures. However, that could also raise some concerns, especially with tar spot in the corn, as some increased moisture and cooler temperatures can really make that disease more prevalent. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with the folks from agmarket.net. First, here is Dr. Justin Glisan. He is the state climatologist for Iowa. First off, Justin, we just got out of that heat dome weather pattern. I think a lot of people are really thankful that it's not 100 degrees feeling outside now.
Absolutely. Nice to be back with you, Riley. So yes, you think of that heat dome, we've had all kinds of events because of that heat dome. We've had very high dew points along with temperatures in the upper 80s and 90s with triple digit heat index values. The Gulf of Mexico moisture gate is wide open, so we have that moisture streaming north. On the periphery of that heat dome is what we call the ring of fire pattern, and that's where we had the derecho form earlier this week. A squall line started in South Dakota, moved along the jet stream interface, the top part of the ridge, across northern Iowa, and then banked down southeast towards Waterloo and Cedar Rapids. So we did have widespread wind damage, lots of tree damage. We've had some spotty reports of crop damage, lodged soybeans, some wind-whipped corn. We're still seeing those reports come in, but it doesn't seem to be as widespread as it could have been given how strong the wind gusts were.
And with that derecho, I know there's a lot of people who still kind of sit on the fence of whether or not it is a derecho. A lot of people kind of confused on, what qualifies as a derecho. And I know I've seen plenty of people too as saying that it's like, well, since the last one we got, we've seen a derecho all the time. But this is more specifically something where we're just kind of knowing how to identify derechos better at this point, right?
Yes, excellent setup for the explanation I'll give. So we have to meet a set of criteria for a squall line to be considered a derecho. The first of which, it has to have a path length of at least 400 miles. It has to be at least 60 miles wide. And within that swath, a majority of the wind gusts have to be 58 miles per hour or greater. And then we have to have well-placed 75 mile per hour or greater gusts along that path length. So if all of those criteria are met, then the squall line or the disturbance classifies as a derecho. So climatologically, you look across the upper Midwest, we generally expect a derecho once every 2 years. Of course, we think back to August 10th, 2020. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of one of the strongest derechos on record and the costliest thunderstorm in United States history that did widespread $13 billion worth of damage across the state of Iowa. So by no means as strong as the August 10th event, but it did meet the criterion to be defined as a derecho.
And then with that derecho and kind of more following that, we got a lot of rain. This July has actually been the wettest one on record, I believe, for the state of Iowa. When it comes to the moisture, what have we seen recently, and what's the outlook here in the upcoming forecast?
Yep. So if we look at the NASH reporting period, we've had 6 consecutive weeks in which we've had above average precipitation across the state of Iowa. So this is stretching back into June. We are the second wettest July on record, and that's behind the great flood year of 1993. So preliminarily, with 1 day to go and still quality control on the precipitation data, we're about 9 inches of rainfall, and that's more than double what we would expect for July. going back 153 years. Now, to your point, if we look at stations across the state, there are going to be some stations that do break their all-time July record rainfall. But yes, a very active month, lots of thunderstorms. We think about the derecho that we just discussed. We've really been below average in terms of severe weather, though, this season, which has been a good thing to see. And with those thunderstorms, we've seen a wide improvement in drought conditions. In fact, we only have 2 small pockets of D0, one around Ottumwa, and then a little slice of D1 moderate drought in southwestern Iowa along the Iowa-Nebraska border. But overall, with the wet conditions that we've seen in late June, getting into July, we've really busted the drought. Looking forward, the first half of August in these 8 to 14 day outlooks, state fair weather, we are seeing a lean towards warmer temperatures, but also looking at a near normal rainfall behavior. So on the rainfall side, what we would expect in August. On the temperature side, we might see some warmer days out there.
And then, of course, with that cooler weather that we're seeing right now, very nice to be outside, but when it comes to the crops, that makes ideal conditions for tar spot. We know that a lot of producers are kind of keeping an eye on that because with moisture on the leaves, cooler temperatures, that tar spot can really kind of come into effect quite fast.
Absolutely, and I've heard the same from our field agronomists and speaking with farmers and producers across the state as well. Luckily, those dew points are coming down, so there's more room in the atmosphere to take evaporated water. So you think when we were under that heat dome, you'd wake up in the morning and there'd be a heavy dew on the grass and on corn and beans. We've moved out of that, thankfully, but still the risk and the potential is there. We've also seen a shift to a northwesterly flow, and that's brought in a Canadian wildfire smoke, and it's actually mixing down to the surface. So you can, if you go outside, you can basically smell that wildfire smoke. It's looking to hang around a little bit, but these conditions are much better than the conditions that we've seen 7 to 10 days ago.
And then when we get that wildfire smoke, is there anything weather-wise that can be impacted by the presence of that smoke, or is it mostly kind of an air quality issue?
It's mostly an air quality issue. Now you can have foggier mornings because you have that particulate. If it does mix down to the surface, water vapor can condense on it, so you can get some foggier days. But overall, it's the real problem is if it does mix down to the surface, breathing issues in livestock and humans who have our pre-existing conditions. So that's why our DNR will issue air quality warnings as they've done today.
All right, Justin, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to stay up to date with the Iowa Climatology Bureau and potentially submit a ground conditions report, how can they do that?
Yeah, so just Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to our website. All my contact information is there. If you want to give me a call, my direct line is 515-281-8981, or email me at justin.glisan@iowaagriculture.gov.
All right, thanks again for your time as always, Justin. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Riley.
Thanks again to Dr. Justin Glisan, the state climatologist for Iowa, for joining our show as always. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're here now with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net to take a look at the closing market summary. Sam, first off, what do we see going on in the grain markets today as we end off the week?
It was a really quiet end of the week here today. Mixed bag here. Soybean futures had a little bit of strength. Corn futures down a little bit, but all in all, pretty quiet day. Saw corn futures still hang in there right above that key support that's been holding pretty strong here at 410 on that December corn contract. The life of contract low is down there at 407.5. That was made in the middle of July. So continue to see that level hold here and stabilize around that 410 area. So if we're able to continue to do that here at some point, think be able to bounce off of those, whether it be on some tariff news or something else along those lines. But soybeans, who have not fared nearly as well this week, broke down below that $10 level of support, did seem to catch today and bounce back up a little bit higher. So it was good to see that, at least for that side of the marketplace.
And I know for the corn side of things, a few farmers are worried right now about tar spot, especially since we got a lot of rain. The temperatures cooled off. It's ideal conditions for that. But at this point, we've talked a lot about it would take a pretty big event to change things majorly in this marketplace right now, correct?
Absolutely. The tar spot that you mentioned, we've been hearing some talks about that, but nothing detrimental by any means. From what I've heard from agronomists and other farmers that I speak throughout the days, it seems like if they have issues, that they've been able to mitigate those, whether it be by spraying or what have you, and not a real big impact on yield at this point. We had the heavy storms that came through beginning of the week, and it was talked that maybe that was going to be a derecho type of event where we lost a lot of corn acres. But from what we've been hearing from our friends in South Dakota, northern Iowa, those areas that saw the high winds, didn't look like it was anything terrible. I mean, of course, there was some areas that got hit really hard. That you saw some grain elevator locations with some damage to bins and that sort of thing, and that's obviously terrible. Don't love to see that, especially at this time of the year. But as far as the crop is concerned, it looks like it was very isolated damage and not widespread enough to really make an impact on the marketplace.
All right, Sam, and then over on the livestock side of things, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Cattle had a nice reversal from yesterday. Obviously, if you looked at the cattle screen yesterday, there was a lot of red across the screen. At one point, thought that we might even go limit down, but didn't quite get that far down. But nonetheless, it was very, very aggressive selling. And I think that was mainly in part to end of the month profit taking from some of the funds. It's no secret that these cattle markets are at all-time highs, and we were actually making all-time highs on Wednesday. So end of the month, the funds that have a heavy long position, they're just trying to take some of those profits there, pad the books there at the end of the month. But here today, we saw some buying come back into the market and back in the green here. Expect things to continue to recover here. Not sure that we'll get all the way back up to those lofty levels that we saw Wednesday here within the next week or so, but certainly wouldn't rule anything out with this cattle market.
And even then with the cattle market, you look at feeder prices and they are still sitting at pretty much historically high levels. So even when you see that drop, still looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you can take $5 to $6 off the price, and you're still at an all-time contract high if you erase the last 2 or 3 days prior to that. It's pretty incredible price action we've been seeing in these markets, no doubt.
All right, Sam, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with the team, how can they do that?
Best way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net, or you could give us a call here in Normal at 1-800-779-1515.
All right, Sam, thanks again for your time as always, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks again to the folks at agmarket.net for joining us as always. We'll take a look at the closing market prices through the market window at iowaagnet.com. September corn down 4.5 at 389.5. August soybeans went unchanged at 961 3/4. August soybean meal up 5.70 at 267.50. August soybean oil down 86 cents at 54.72. Chicago wheat down 6.5 at 516 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 7.5 at 518 3/4. Kansas City spring wheat down 13 1/4 at 516 3/4. September oats down 3 even at 350 1/4. On the Merc, August live cattle up 235 at 230.12. August feeders up 320 at 334.57. August lean hogs up 22 cents at 107.35. Pork cutout went unchanged at 115 even. And August class 3 milk up 7 cents at 17.20. That's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Ashton Jolly, Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.